Dr. David Lazerson is an acclaimed educator, author, and musician. In 1973, shortly before his marriage, he had an audience with the Rebe.
At that time, you could go in to the Rebbe before you got married, so you and your future spouse could go in, along with your parents and your in-laws. So it turned out the only one of the two sets of parents was my future father-in-law. So he came in with myself and my wife-to-be, Gittel. He had this condition that was affecting him neurologically. And he was diagnosed as having MS, multiple sclerosis. So my wife, maybe 6 to 8 months before, wrote in a letter to the Rebbe describing my father-in-law's condition, what the doctor said. And the Rebbe's response was that he should check his mezuzahs and tefillin. So now, interestingly enough, you can't check what you don't have, right? So, so the first thing was, okay, let's get tefillin and mezuzahs so we can check them. And so they went out and got mezuzahs for all the doorposts, and got a pair of tefillin for my future father-in-law. So there's the three of us in the Rebbe's office, and he starts to describe his conditions to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said to him, "I know, Mr. Wilnez, I received the letter, and did you get my response?" So my father-in-law says, "Yes." And he says to the Rebbe, we put up mezuzahs, and I've been putting on tefillin. And so the Rebbe said to him, "Every day?" And my father-in-law said, "Yes, every day." And then the Rebbe said, "But not Shabbos and Yom Tov." And my father-in-law said, "No, not Shabbos and Yom Tov." And they shared a little bit of a laugh there. But my father-in-law read everything he could about MS. Anything he could get his hands on. He was very well read in general, but now about his own condition that he thought he had. And so they spoke like doctors. I mean, myself and Gittel, we were just back there, just sort of listening back and forth, kind of going like this. We went from one to the Rebbe, to my father-in-law, back to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe would say to my father-in-law, though, this could be attributed to this could be attributed to that. And they sort of spoke on medical terms, like it was above me. But the Rebbe said, and that Yechidus, to my father-in-law 3 times, he said to him, "I don't think you have MS. I don't think you have MS. I don't think you have MS." So at the end of the Yechidus, he told my father-in-law, "I think you should get a brand new diagnosis, and we should hear good news." And then we left. When we got out in the hallway, I remember kind of giving my father-in-law a kiss, and I said to him, you don't even know what we just, were privy to." It was like, I felt like I was privy to just sort of seeing the Rebbe, work his above nature stuff right in front of my eyes. That the Rebbe could tell him he doesn't have MS, when, meantime, that's what the doctor said. His main doctor said, the next doctor said, so he had 3 doctors who told him that's what he has. And the Rebbe said 3 times he ain't got it, and then he told him to get a new diagnosis. So my father-in-law, he didn't want to go through the same tests that he had taken. In those days, they would inject sort of radioactive dye into the spine. He said it was very painful, and for this a diagnostic test for MS. Maybe a year and a half went by, and we found out about a brand new diagnostic test that was now being used to diagnose MS. And it was much more accurate than the radioactive dye. So it was like 99.99% accurate. So my mother-in-law, together with my father-in-law, flew, I believe it was in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. A few days later, he gets the results back from the test. He doesn't have MS. A year and a half later, the medical tests confirm he ain't got MS. He lived for 16 years after that Yechidus.